Right, gents, here we are. This is the first boardroom of 2022. We're actually in the second month, aren't we? We're now on the second day of the second month of the defining year in our careers. How exciting is that? And to kick it off, you know, I've come to one of the new rooms in our new office with a nice little bit of a London backdrop there. See that? Clearly the lighting's not quite so good, but I've got our new podcast microphone with me. Now we've all got these, right? But they've moved to different places and clearly remote working and hybrid working solutions. I mean, we didn't all get them in time, but I'm so excited about it. It's here anyway. Anyway, right, what are we talking about today, gents?
Predictions for 2022, my friend.
Oh my word! Right, so we're doing predictions for 2022, predominantly recruitment related, but we might throw a few curveballs in as well. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Who wants to? Right. So, and then what we're going to do? We're going to come back in either December or I guess we'll do it December or maybe January next year, and we're going to see how we scored.
Yeah.
So joking aside, this is our insights into, I guess, what the trends we're seeing, where we think 2022 is going to take us. Hopefully, giving some insight to customers, whether they be clients or candidates, as to potentially what to expect about recruitment and/or people-related functions, issues, challenges throughout the rest of the year. All right, this is exciting. This is serious and fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Who wants to kick off first? JD?
All right. So I think certainly the attraction of talent is going to continue to be a massive issue for all of our clients going through 2022, and that's clearly no surprise. I think some of the things that some of the trends that we are going to see within that is very much the staff, employees driving a lot of the cultural behaviours in those businesses, and I think that authentic nature of companies putting out who they are and what they are will become bigger and bigger and more important as you look to win that war for talent. So I think we will see companies engaging and using their actual employees as opposed to some of the stock images, stock videos, stock stuff. And they will really try and position their businesses online and with all the other various social medias with a genuine culture. And I think certainly businesses that aren't doing that will potentially get left behind in the war for talent as we go forward. So I think that's going to be a big trend as everyone tries to do that, but without trying to be that me too. And I think that's going to be a really interesting challenge for the businesses going forwards, that, I guess within, a sales environment, it's not just lunch clubs, it's not just trips, it's this, but what about where's the authentic underbelly of the business? And I think businesses that do that well will certainly do very well in their hiring and attraction and potentially retention. But I think that's going to be a big trend and challenge for businesses as we go through 2022.
John, I think you're absolutely spot on. It's something that we're seeing in the marketplace a lot, right? I think brand positioning and how businesses are perceived in the market is going to be crucial in that war for talent. And the war for talent is a really interesting topic, and you can look at it from a number of different ways. But when you boil it down, it is about attraction and retention. So how businesses are perceived and what the brand looks like externally as well as internally, because that's going to have a big say in it, is going to be crucial as people look to continue on their growth strategies and their hiring.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree, isn't it? I guess it's hard to disagree with that. I guess it's hard to gauge as well. I think the interesting point is how do people do this? People have got to be authentic, and it's authenticity which is attracting candidates, right?
Yep.
Candidates want, they're joining businesses that have a purpose. So it's got to be authentic, but then also doing it in a way that we use the phrase "me too," right? We see a lot of companies trying to jump on the bandwagon of an idea or an initiative that they think is going to secure them talent, and that's when it loses authenticity. So it's that blend of being authentic and creative and true to your purpose. So yeah, can't disagree. I guess we'll come back at the end of the year and we'll grade how correct you are, but I can't see you being wrong on that one.
I think because it's a relatively safe one to start the day off with, I think probably the interesting thing will be to come back with and maybe identify and look at some examples of where that's been really well done, and maybe as we go through where we feel it's dropped off a bit, because I do think the companies that engage their employees and get them to be front and center of those messages in a natural way, where it hasn't been overly controlled by a central marketing function, I think are the ones that will probably end up getting the best levels of engagement, and then obviously the talent that follows behind it.
And we could possibly, I mean, look, we'll showcase, we showcase customer stories quite consistently on our director's cuts, so maybe we could sort of showcase a few of those.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll all have some great examples. Good start, JD. Okay, Max, coming over to you. Your first prediction for 2022.
So this is one that I know we all have a different opinion on. It's something we've spoken about on previous boardrooms. But one of the biggest, I suppose, predictions or trends that I see is that hybrid working is here to stay, and confirmation of that is going to be cemented throughout 2022. I think it's going to be a mainstay for most businesses, and it's going to be done to offer that work-life balance, but also demonstrate that businesses trust their employees to get the job done with that split of in office and working from home. It's been done throughout the pandemic. As we came through the back end of last year, it's continued this year. I think it's, gents, I know we've all got different opinions and keen to hear, but I think it's here to stay.
Right, I'm going to challenge this one first. It's not like me to like the sound of my own voice too much. So look, I do agree that hybrid working 100% is here to stay, but I do think, look, I'm obviously based in London, and a high percentage of the client base that we work with and a high percentage of the businesses, bear in mind I'm based in the City of London, a high percentage of the businesses I'm working around are financial services institutions. Already, we can see that the big banks are starting to put directives out for returning to work. And they're most likely to be sales positions, front office trading positions. And to be fair, a lot of front office trading and sales positions have been in the office all the way through the pandemic anyway. But as the big banks take people back to the office, then they're going to want the support functions there as well. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Max. I think hybrid working is here to stay. But I do think London and financial services in particular will lead the way in bucking that trend a bit, and then that will spill over. So I think 2 days will become 3 days, 3 days will become 4 days, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if people are back in the office more than we currently expect at the moment.
I don't disagree with what you're saying from a.
We're all being very polite, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. I don't disagree with what you're saying from a banking and financial services perspective in London. But I do think when you look at the UK as a whole, that's a sector. I do think there are going to be far more sectors and industries that are at home more than the likes of your big banks. So it's not that I disagree, but I think that's an area of the market. I do think there's a huge chunk that are going to be at the other end that are, let's call it 3 days in, 2 days from home. I do believe that, just from what I'm seeing in the market already.
I think it's going to be really interesting this year to see how it plays out. I think in the same way Neil talks about the banks, I think it will be interesting within particular industry sectors, whether there are almost first movers back into being in the offices all the time, or more of the time, and that competitive element to it. I think a lot of businesses are in real growth mode at the moment, and it feels great. But the market's come back to us in many sectors and has enabled us to grow. I think when that market turns and it's not as buoyant, I think that's when companies will start to potentially change a little bit, and the competitive advantage to having everyone in the offices, particularly from a sales perspective, I think will start to eke. So I'm sort of with, not Neil to an extent, but I think that 3-2 split, I think will start to go 4-1. And I think at that point, we're in a really interesting space to go, do you go into that 4-day week? Do I think that we could actually get, if you went, right, guys, we're in the offices Monday to Thursday, that's it, you know, or you're in the office Tuesday to Friday, it's sort of a split over the thing. Do I think that businesses would be more effective and create the work-life balance? Absolutely. So that's sort of, I know there's a few trials around the UK.
So I was going to say that, John, there's a number of businesses that are sort of vocalizing that they're trialing that at the moment. Yeah. 4-day week. It's like,
yeah. What do they call it? 180, 100. So 100% of the salary, 80% of the time, 100% of the outputs. And I'm a big advocate for that. I think that to me is much better than hybrid, because I think then there's elements where everyone understands where they stand. And I think when, certainly from a professional services perspective, and you start to look at those businesses ramping up trainees and all the rest of it, and I guess the banks and the trading floors and all the rest of it, that learning through osmosis has been massively limited, and that is going to create some challenges as businesses grow, because people will not be accelerating at that same rate. So I think you're right. There will be an element of flexible working that will be here. You know, we've all enjoyed doing different things with our time, dropping kids off, you know, doing whatever it might be. But I don't think it's going to be quite as simple as the 3-2 split that we have at the moment. I think companies will look to bring people together more often.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go. That created some good debate. You came into the 4-day week, so Bango is one of my ideas that I was going to talk about in a minute. It's a good job I had a few backups, wasn't it? Okay, so my first prediction. I'm going to talk about selection processes, your recruitment selection processes, and dealing with unconscious bias. So I think we've spoken about it, and we've heard it out there, and we're starting to see a little bit come through. But you know, moving up, I'm not saying that by the end of the year CVs will be defunct and gone, but I think we're going to have a strong shift towards different recruitment processes, more achievement-based documents, CVs that are removing, maybe removing names, but also removing the names of maybe educational establishments, and any of those, I guess, identifiers that could lead the hiring manager through a level of unconscious bias. It's probably something that again, we don't recruit for many bulge bracket investment banks, and we don't recruit for too many sort of FTSE 100s either, but I think certainly in the more corporate environments, anecdotally, more and more businesses are starting to look for those identifiers being removed from CVs. We're certainly being asked from our, as a supplier, a part of a business's supply chain, to be positively discriminating against protected, for protected classes in the profiles and shortlisting that we're doing. And I think, moving away from a traditional send a CV, first round, second round, final stage interview, it's just not quick enough either, right? The winners in 2022 are going to be the people that can identify candidates through achievement-based conversations within a 2-week period, and looking at how they can eliminate that unconscious bias in the process.
And Neil, do you see that across, I suppose, if we look at our business, all of the brands that we recruit for, technology, finance and accounting, and HR, do you see that happening in more of one of those brands than you do the other? Or
Yeah,
do you,
we're probably seeing the supply chain being, a level of control in that around positive discrimination would be certainly within financial services. I think not that we necessarily recruit for the big four or big five accounting practices, but your Ernst & Young's, PwC's, I believe, strategies around that are starting to be implemented across that type of business. So I think, certainly your larger corporates and probably your sort of financial services and big consulting practices may be where that comes in first and foremost. But it will trickle down, I said trickle down, it will permeate itself across. I'm not saying it'll be mainstream by the end of the year, but I think we will have seen, we'll come back to this video in December and go, oh gosh, yeah, think back to what it was like at the beginning of the year as to where it's now, and I think we'll see a delta.
I think it'd be really interesting to see how, particularly some of those bigger, I suppose, graduate employers, as you say, some of the big bulge banks, how do they start to approach stuff like the milk rounds, and how do they start to approach some of those things? Because obviously they go out to the likes of your top 10 universities and all the rest of it, and that then creates a sort of funnel of people that come through from potentially predominantly specific backgrounds and all the rest of it. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see how it's not just at the professional level that I think that will start to have an impact, because I think at that point you can go through achievements and all the rest of it. I think as they start to look at I suppose that influx into the graduate schemes that they have, how they're going to approach it there, because I think that piece is going to be a really interesting challenge for those businesses. And as you say, I think certainly there will be some changes over the next 12 months.
We shall see. Right. Should we go the other way around this time? Should we go second?
Yeah, go on.
I said that should be me next, shouldn't it? I guess based on that. Put myself under the bus. Okay, right. Second one. Okay, look, we're seeing this already. So there's a bit of a, I guess, how to look at the back end of the year. I'm not quite sure, but look, you said at the beginning, JD, I've worked in recruitment, I should know this, 25 years, I think. This is by far the biggest delta between your job flow and talent availability that I can ever recall in my recruitment career, and it's been longer than many. And certain functions, let's put out software engineering is probably the key function we recruit for, that we're seeing a demand outstripping supply. Talent acquisition is probably, your internal talent acquisition is probably another. So, the way that recruitment businesses like ourselves are partnering with our customers has massively, back in the last year, shifted significantly all the way through last year, and I think will continue to do so. We've seen a significant increase in deposit-led solutions. We've seen a significant increase in talent as a service, and that's not unique to our business. That's across the industry. So I think I think what we're going to see throughout the rest of this year, the way that specialist recruiters partner with internal talent acquisition teams, HR functions, and senior stakeholders within hiring clients, the productization of our service is going to continue to change at pace. And I think we've worked in recruitment many years, and we talk about having a trusted partner status. But I think the way recruitment is priced, the way recruitment is delivered, the way that a company pools its resources, coupled with the resources of its recruitment partners, is going to really evolve to sort of take that talent as a service to another level in 2022. So, I think as recruiters, we're probably all looking for the way that we can best solve our clients' needs, and I think necessity is going to be the mother of creativity in 2022.
I actually don't think I can add anything to that. I think you've surmised it brilliantly. You started to see it a lot more throughout 2021 than you ever had been before. And as we came to the back end of last year, there were more and more businesses were offering that level of service with the customer front and center. that's absolutely continued as we've come into January and now February. But I think you've summed that up brilliantly, mate.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah.
Oh, JD speechless on that one. That's cool. I think we got to throw in the technology aspect as well, right? The level of different technology tools that are at our disposal and how we use those, because you can't use technology for everything, right? So, how do we, as recruitment businesses, automate part of the process, add the human element where it's required to deliver that frictionless service that delivers some choice, because that's the big challenge for our customers right now, is that they don't feel that they're getting the choice that they need to make the decisions. So yeah, it's a melting pot of challenges in there, but what a great time to be in recruitment, right? So it's our job to solve all those challenges. So that's me. That's my 2 recruitment related predictions done. So back to you, Max.
I think one again that we will all have seen exponentially, but sorry to use the word because it's a COVID related word, but I think we are going to see and continue to see unprecedented levels of remuneration, reward, and benefits that are being offered to attract and retain talent throughout 2022. It was massive throughout the back end of last year, and I think it's going to continue on throughout this year. I don't think it's sustainable. How long that can continue for, major question mark. But I do think it's going to be something that is going to be throughout 2022.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, because obviously a lot of that is being driven by the technology businesses, particularly within the software development that Neil's already touched on in terms of how competitive that space is. I think it's going to be very interesting. Some of the market corrections we've already seen in technology, I think that could continue through 2022, as whilst I don't think funding is going to start drying up going into technology, I do think at some point that switch between just consistent investing and funds feeling like that fear of missing out, going into, well, actually, where's the profit going to start to come from in these businesses? I think at some point the business models are going to have to change, because you do look at it, across a team of 10 developers, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds in additional compensation, and at some point that's going to start to have to trickle through. Obviously we're being impacted by inflation as consumers at the moment, and all these things. So at some point, I'm not sure what the correction is, because I actually agree with you that salaries are going to keep going up. But at some point, if inflation keeps going up, salaries keep going up. I'm not an an economist, but at some point,
that's easy for you to say now, John.
Yeah, exactly. At some point, it feels like there's going to have to be some sort of market correction, and you look at a lot of the stuff that's coming out in terms of how hot some of the markets are, how hot some of the different stocks are. It feels like maybe not this year, but certainly in the foreseeable future, there's got to be some sort of market correction.
Yeah, no, I was going to talk about the same thing. You get wage inflation numbers stated by the government. I mean, the wage inflation that we are seeing is far in excess of what's getting stated by official numbers. Absolutely. But it is unsustainable. I mean, it is unsustainable because it can't continue to rise at the rate it is. But likewise, economics is supply and demand, and if demand continues to outstrip supply at the rate it is, it's going to drive salaries north. But it is unsustainable. So yeah, I mean, it will be really interesting to see where that ends up by the end of the year. 100%.
Yeah.
John, this is your last work related.
So my last work one,
staffing related.
It's sort of aligned to one that you mentioned earlier, but all around EDI. So I think that sort of diversity, inclusion. I think businesses are going to have to be far more open about what their current statuses are in terms of how their teams are made up. I think from a supplier perspective, I think as we start to work with businesses on a more contractual basis, as opposed to on a sort of singular one-off basis, companies will want to know how our demographic is made up. I think that will start to become something that's spoken about far more. And I think probably pre-pandemic, it was beginning to come out a little bit more, and you're starting to see those trends. I think the pandemic sort of shut a lot of those things down. but I think certainly from a leadership perspective, that EDI agenda, if you're going to win the war for talent, I think is another key cornerstone. But I think it's also going to be a key cornerstone in you winning business within your market sectors as well. So I think, you know, certainly that piece for me is going to be a big part of 2022.
Yeah, definitely.
I absolutely agree. You look at, you know, some of the things that we've done as a business, you know, neurodiversity related that we did, you know, or went through last year, that course. I think more and more businesses were starting to address it, but you know, as we came out of the pandemic, it might not have been front and center. But as we go through this year, yeah, absolutely, this is the year that businesses can identify and turn any issues that they have in terms of diversity and inclusion around.
Yeah. If you think, you know, the feedback we took from our teams back in October and the baby steps we're taking and the things that we're looking to, or we started to implement and will continue to implement on that roadmap. But yeah, it's loud and clear, you know, from a candidate standpoint as well. You know, the businesses that they're approaching, that it's really important.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look, there's some great insights into, you know, the staffing recruitment sector and people issues. I think we're throwing out a curveball each. I'm not sure I got the brief right, but I know what I'm going to say. But John, we'll go back to yourself on this one.
All right. So I think that this is the year where we are going to move significantly towards a cashless society. I think that you will find that significant numbers of bars, restaurants, takeaways, all the rest of it, where you used to pay cash, they don't accept cash anymore. I think it will be, you know, I was out over Christmas. There was a number of bars in Cambridge. They don't take cash anymore. Not interested. You can't actually buy anything with cash. And I think that's gonna become bigger and bigger. Not just for ease of the consumer, but I think ease of the businesses. You know, I was chatting to the bar manager, and he's like, we don't have to cash up at night. We don't have to count anything. You know, it's all there. It's factual. So I think certainly, I think that the amount of times that I go to the cash point has already dramatically reduced. But I think by the time we get to the end of the year, it will just be, I don't want to say redundant, but it's going to be.
Sterling could be redundant. It could all be digital tokens by the end of the year. It could be cryptos all the way. We've got a couple of digital ticketing clients, so it would be a shameless plug to put it out there right now, right? But yeah, I think I'd go one step. I think digital tokens and that maybe not by the end of this year, but soon.
Well, I think Gibraltar are looking to launch the first crypto stock exchange or crypto exchange. So that I think will probably coming live by the end of the year as well.
I'm not going to comment on that for fear of saying the wrong thing and exposing my inability to actually understand how the crypto markets work. Cryptos are unregulated, right? So, you know, there are various institutions looking at how they get around it being unregulated with regulated clients and what happens. But yeah, Max, any thoughts? Or should we move into your off-piste?
Oh well.
Suggestion.
I didn't think John was going to come out with that. It's definitely food for thought. So I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle. Okay, so this is going to be a personal Learmonth related prediction for 2022. And Neil, you, as a former sportsman, you might know where I'm going with this.
If you're going to say the same one, I'm going to say I'm.
No. So this is going to be
up 20.
This is going to be Learmonth related. So for our viewers and listeners, my little brother is an 800-meter runner for GB and for New Balance. This year is a big year where he's going to be representing Scotland at the Commonwealth Games. So my prediction is a medal for Guy Learmonth at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Second
Nice.
week.
Oh, great.
Very
Good prediction that.
Very good.
It's going to be tough. So come on, Guy. I know you don't have LinkedIn, but you'll be getting sent this video.
Yeah. I'm doing.
I don't want to argue with that one, so I'll just go. Yeah, I agree.
I'm doing everything I can do right now to not bring out an athletics-related anecdotal story about goal setting and predictions. So you are in Learmonth and you are from north of the border, so you were never going to say what I'm about to predict. We're going to come and do the follow-up to this in either December or January next year. If it's December, it won't quite have happened yet, but if it's January, I think Gareth is going to bring home the World Cup. I think we've had some near misses. Yeah, we've had semi-finals, European finals. This year, England's going all the way, and under the fan-assisted dry heat of Qatar, I think England are going to win the World Cup this year. Boom, ting-a-ling.
Yeah.
Silence.
I'm not feeling it, but by the time we get to the quarterfinals, I will be.
I put it this way. I'm not going to put any of my hard-earned cash on it, but for the sake of a podcast in January, I can get February. I can get away with anything. So, gents, this has been good fun. You know, the fact I'm sitting here with my with my new podcast mic, but clearly some very dodgy lighting. So for our next boardroom, I'll certainly find another room. But yeah, good predictions, good debate, good conversation. I'm excited to see where this goes, and not that I want to wish the year away, but I'm almost excited for the end of the year to see how the world's changed.